on the air.
Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us for another Dojo Live, connecting with experts like you. My name is Kim Lantis, and I'm airing from one of Nearsoft's offices in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. I'm joined once again by my fellow Nearsoftian, Carlos Ponce. Hey, Carlos.
Hello.
Hello. So this week has a lot in store for us. We actually have at least three talks lined up, and you might be asking why. And that's basically because Nearsoft is gearing up for next week's mountain travel symposium that's taking place in Banff and Lake Louise in Alberta, Canada. I'm personally really excited about this because Banff borders Glacier National Park from my home state of Montana. Although I'm a little sad because I myself am not going, and a little jealous because Carlos
Yeah.
is. Yay!
Yay.
So very good. So basically, what we're doing this week is bringing you together with some fact-filled live interviews from some of the most outstanding business people in what is the travel and hospitality industry. So to kick us off is Kelly Davis. Hello, Kelly.
Hi.
Kelly
Hi,
is
Kelly.
Hi, Carlos.
research director. Hello, research director for Snow Sports Industries America, which is my understanding the Snow Sports Trade Association. So she's going to be talking to us about snow sports today, and of course, we're going to delve into some of her expertise, which is, I believe, 25 years experience in analytics. And Kelly herself has actually developed and patented systems that help the intelligence analysts of organizations determine the real value of information. So we're excited to hear about that today. Thank you for being here again, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit just about your.
Not to worry. This usually happens when we're broadcasting live.
Okay.
It pauses. We're
Reasons
good.
in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So she's back up. So
I'm here.
Yeah, can you
Okay.
tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Kelly, before we delve into the winter sports, snow sports, and of course the analytics?
Yeah, sure. It's I've had a very interesting career. For the most part, though, I'm just a humble mathematician. That's all I do. I can look at a sheet of numbers and it speaks to me, which is great because a lot of people look at a sheet of numbers and their eyes glaze over and they never want to look at a sheet of numbers again, which guarantees that I'm going to have a job, for at least the next 15, 20 years, something like that, until analytics take my place. But I have a master's degree in basically in mathematics, also in policy. And I've used that in a lot of different ways, but for the past 10 years, I've been the research director for SIA, Snow Sports Industries America, and basically, my job is to make sure that our members, who for the most part are suppliers, there's some retailers and reps in there, but that they get a clear view of what's going on in the snow sports marketplace. So, I analyze data, and I've always analyzed data. I've done it for a number of different industries, including manufacturing and intelligence, actually, which was sort of an interesting little tangent for me. I worked at a couple of internet companies when the internet was just really taking off. It seems like yesterday sometimes, and it seems like 100 years ago at other times. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. And to end up doing math in snow sports is, who gets that lucky? I don't know. I must have done something right along the way because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like a really, really fun job. Before, I think a good thing to get us started with, and it's worth mentioning, that the majority of many of our viewers, particularly those near Softians, we come from warm weather climates. And so the idea of a snow sport is pretty abstract. So can we just take like 5 minutes or so to talk about the variety of snow sports, the immensity of the industry? I mean, kind of bring it down to earth for some of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, snow sports is, pretty much anything you can do in winter, as far as I'm concerned. Everything from having a snowball fight to sledding to downhill skiing in big mountains like in Banff, for instance. And it includes Nordic skiing, it includes snowboarding. So it's fairly inclusive. When I think about what's strictly snow sports for the purist, We have downhill skiing, which includes alpine skiing and free skiing, and telemark skiing. We also have alpine touring, which is skiing, only sometimes you're skiing uphill. Go figure. And
okay, mathematician, explain that.
it's true.
Please.
All right, so if you there's something called uphill downhill skiing, where you have a what they call an AT setup, an alpine touring setup, so that you can put skins, which are this sort of it really does feel sort of like an animal skin, like imagine like the outside of an otter going on the backs of your skis. And what it does, it keeps you from sliding back down the hill. So you can basically hike on up and then ski down. And it's becoming quite a thing, by the way. And
so going one direction, it gets friction, and the other direction, it's frictionless.
Yeah, and well, for the most part, when you get to the top or wherever it is you want to stop, you peel the skins off. It's like imagine like the sort of stickiness of oh, we were talking about Post-it notes, of a Post-it note. It sticks to the ski using that kind of an adhesive, and you just peel it right off and throw it in your pack, and off you go.
But it's actually easier to walk up the hill with your skis on than to carry them?
It is. It's much easier because you can slide. So you're getting more feet per step, and it's just easier to glide up. There's also snowshoeing. You could choose to snowshoe up and put your skis on your pack, your snowboard on your pack. Nordic skiing is all about taking skinny skis and skiing over flat land for long distances in spandex.
Or what we know is, I think I know that as cross-country skiing.
Right, exactly. Exactly. It's just another name for cross-country skiing.
Very good. So what about, those are some of the activities in snow sports. How big is the industry? Can we have some statistics numbers? I know you know them.
You bet if I don't, they should fire me right away. Well, in general, there are about 23.5 million people who participate in something that, one of the sports that I just outlined, from snowshoe to downhill ski to snowboard to cross-country skiing. There are about 11.6 million people who downhill ski. And
so
they're about
half.
Yeah, and about 7 point, and there's crossover. There's a lot of crossover between these sports. So there are a lot of people that do more than one thing. I think there are 7.6 million snowboarders, and the crossover with ski is almost 30%. So we've got a lot of kids now that keep a pair of skis and a snowboard in their car, and they just switch up in the parking lot at lunch. There's that much crossover. And we've also got 8 million people sledding every year. And if you want to have a good time, and you want to waste an hour or two, go to YouTube and just check out sledding. It's the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. It's kind of the same. Everybody sleds down the hill, and then they giggle, and then they stand up, run back up the hill, and do the same thing over and over. It's pretty awesome. But so it's a fairly large.
And sometimes you cry, depending on how it looks.
Hopefully, you didn't run into that tree.
Or the rock hidden under the snow.
Well, that hurts. So yeah, and if we counted all the people that are outdoors in the wintertime, and this is just in the US, there are 100 million people that are out either running or hiking or sledding or skiing or snowboarding or cross-country skiing every single year. So there are a whole lot of people that go outdoors, and our members serve all of them. As if it gets cold, you need a parka, and so the snow sports market last season hit about $4.7 billion. So it's not enormous, but it's a significant market, and there are a significant number of dollars that are moving through it.
Wow, 4.7 billion with a B.
Billion. Right.
Nice. I was wondering, as we're talking about the idea of growing the snow sports sales, I'm a bit embarrassed to admit, born and raised in the state of Montana, which has lengthy and abundant winters.
Yes, it does.
I myself have never really gotten into snow sports, with the exception of perhaps sledding and snowball fights that you mentioned. And in part, to me, at least growing up, a lot of this was the assumption or the perception that winter sports or snow sports are costly. Is that a reality, or is that an assumption? And if it is a reality, what can the industry do to kind of get over that hurdle of inviting more people in?
Yeah, it's interesting that, expense and proximity to a resort are the two major barriers, and they've been the barriers for, decades. They haven't changed a whole lot, and the industry does a lot to try and, and mitigate the expense of snow sports. There are things that anyone can do. For instance, you can buy a seasons pass you can buy an epic pass and have access to, more than 20 resorts in the US and 30 resorts in Europe for $600 or so. And if you buy it in August, and that's not necessarily, a pair of shoes that you can just put on and go out walking. The reality is that, it is a fairly expensive sport. And if you're just doing it on a whim and you're walking up to a ticket window, you can expect to pay about as much as you pay to go to, say, Disneyland for a day. So it's about the same as going to a sporting event for the day. So to a certain extent, there are all kinds of ways to reduce the cost by purchasing your lift tickets or your season pass in advance, and you can rent everything that you need. So if you're coming up from, say, Hermosillo or Mexico City and you're going to Banff, as you are, you basically don't have to take anything. You can rent everything, which keeps you from having to spend all of your money, buying the gear that you're going to need on the mountain.
And by everything, you mean everything from a snow cap to gloves to a jacket.
Everything except for base layer, because that's gross.
the long johns you have to bring with you, Carla.
Yeah, your underwear you need to
and for those of you who aren't familiar with the term long johns, it's thermal underwear. Yes. Okay.
You may need that. I don't know.
So that's interesting. Are those types of trends that have developed over the years, or is this kind of the thing that's been going on for decades, like you said?
Actually, everything that I'm going to say has been going on for decades. We did a study about 2 years ago that's ongoing. Basically, we decided not to stop doing it. It was called the Downhill Consumer Intelligence Project, and in that we looked back at 40 years of snow sports data that included, sales and the number of participants in each of the disciplines, and the number of resort visits there were. And what we found was that a very, very static market. Really interesting, and not a lot's changed in snow sports over the past 40 years. For example, in 1976, there were about 12.2 million people who went downhill skiing at least 2 times during that season. And there are about 53 million visits to resorts that year in the US. Now, if I fast forward to last season, we had about 12.2 million people who skied or snowboarded about 2 times or more. And we had 53 million visits to resorts. So any of the variances in the middle have more to do with weather than they had to do with anything else. So it's been a really interesting journey to look back at that data and see that the things that move the needle mostly have to do with temperature and precipitation. Yeah, it's a remarkably static industry.
That's interesting. I mean, the good news is it's stable. You can count on it. But the bad news is it's not growing either. Which I guess from a business standpoint, you want it to increase. So how are you able to use and I think use your analytics to come up with ideas to increase that market? And also, like, what about the low season? Obviously, snow sports only apply in the winter months, and then you have the other 6, 7, 8 months of the year, 9, depending on where you live. That you can expect that to decline or be non-existent. So, what are some of the tactics that are used there?
Yeah, I was going to say there are only 2 seasons: winter and construction.
When you're from Montana, that's not the truth. And then when you live in Montana, it's like we have hot and hotter.
It's pretty funny. So yeah, it's where do I start? When we did that look back, that whole idea was to say, okay, well, here's what's worked over the years, and here's some things that didn't work. But what we found was that really none of the traditional programs moved the needle much at all. which left us with a whole lot of opportunities to think outside the box, to break the paradigm. And the paradigm.
I'm sorry. Could you real
Yeah.
quick tell us what traditional means?
In this case, traditional would be you must bring people to a resort and they're going to have 3 lessons, and once they've completed 3 lessons, then they're going to be skiers or snowboarders forever. That's the assumption. They have to come to the resort, they have to take the lessons, they have to go through, it's almost like an initiation. They have to go through those steps in order to become a committed snow sports participant. So that's what traditional is. Untraditional, and what we found was that every season we've got about 8 million people that lapse. So about 8 million people that skied or snowboarded the season before simply just didn't do it this season for a number of reasons. And some of the major reasons are, besides expense and proximity to the resort, they didn't have time, or they didn't have anybody to go with. So we found a lot of opportunity there to really just re-engage those 8 million lapsed participants. And no one had ever really talked about that before, interestingly enough. And we also discovered that consumer behavior has changed a lot. And when we went through the economic downturn in 2008, we lost a lot of millennials. A lot of millennials lapsed, and discovered that they were spending a lot of time behind the screen and looking at content online. And even so, we didn't have a lot of content about skiing or snowboarding, or what the products can do for you anywhere online. And we weren't putting that content up where our lapsed participants, or even our participants, were going. So it was interesting to see how the dynamics had shifted over the years. Additionally, in the U.S. population, as you know, diversity continues to multiply, and we end up not serving a huge portion of the population, simply because you, being from Montana, Kim, you probably know, it's sort of it's just for rich people. It's just something that you can only do if you have money, and you have a lot of leisure time to spend sliding down a mountain.
Right. And unfortunately, I think there's even a race assumption and even a sex assumption there. Like, you think a skier or a snowboarder, and what do you think? White male.
Yeah. Well, I don't. But
You don't. I do. I don't know, Carlos. Am I wrong in that assumption?
I couldn't tell, Kim.
He's like, I'm not touching that one with the 12-foot pole.
I don't want to get in trouble, Kim.
But it's interesting that you guys bring this up, because we did, as part of that downhill consumer intelligence project, we did 2 major studies on youth and snow sports. And what was really interesting about that is some of the reasons that the kids were giving for not wanting to participate in snow sports, not wanting to ski or snowboard. And one of them was sort of a perception of elitism, that it was just, like you said, it was all a bunch of just rich white guys, and they didn't really want to have any part of that. And I'm definitely in favor of changing that perception. It's not just for rich white guys; it's for everybody. So we have an opportunity just to engage more people simply by thinking, deliberately about attracting different groups, a more diversified group to snow sports.
Kelly, Kim,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to just simply pause for a couple of seconds, because I'd like to remind the audience that if you have any questions for Kelly, here is, let me slide my high-tech device here. You can send it over. You can send your questions over to DojoLIVE on Twitter, right here. Okay, you can get this high-tech devices on Amazon for $200. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. So remember, folks, it's at DojoLIVE. Just send it over to us on Twitter, and we'll read it back to Kelly, and then she can respond here while we're live. And since now I just grabbed on the mic for a couple of minutes, I'd like to ask something that's kind of trailing around my head, and I'm just thinking. Well, as you know, as we mentioned, we're going to be attending a winter sports related event in Canada in a few days, and there are some aspects that could also apply to other areas of travel, not just winter sports.
Right.
And So my question, Kelly, would be: you mentioned that uh, you have. I think you even patented a system that helps intelligence analysts, right, organize and determine the real value of information. So, what is the real value of information in travel tech, specifically for travel in general, not just for winter sports, but also in travel? Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Yeah, you know,
Or,
there are a couple pieces. You want to know, how many people are traveling, where they're traveling, how much they're spending. But you know, one of the most important things is to know who those people are and how to reach them. And so, it's really, really super important to, to put a face to the demographic. So instead of just saying, okay, well, we have this percentage of people with incomes over this level and this percentage, that's not enough. You need to have a description that includes sort of, what we call warm bodies in mathematics. You need to have something that really paints a picture of exactly who's traveling and what motivates them to travel, what motivates them to spend, and what else they do with their time. Who are these people and how do we reach them? Where do they go when they go online? What kinds of things do they read? What kinds of things do they look at? Are they spending 2 hours a day on YouTube? Are they more likely to get streaming content on demand? Or where do they shop? Do they go to the mall? Do they do it online? These are all really important things to know, and to be able to put a face to that data, that demographic and psychographic data is really, really important.
oh, okay, cool.
Okay,
No, I'm sorry. I
that's
kind
okay.
of. No, it's just that it froze for like 2 seconds, but that's
Uh-huh.
okay. I mean, you covered it pretty well.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
well,
was
yeah, I
wondering,
think.
Kelly, if you have any like examples or case studies of that, like where you were able to identify something and then
Yeah,
use that to do something about it.
we took our participant data that includes a really rich set of demographics. So I have all those numbers and I can look at that page, of our report and see exactly what our major demographics look like. And we did a lot of interviews, and we used the content from 140,000 interviews on Hill. And we basically took all of that data and including, some that's quantitative, some that's qualitative, we put it all together and we built 28 consumer profiles for downhill ski, for snowboard, and for cross country skiing. And they include profiles like the balanced warrior, who both of us may fit into, right? That's a woman who's basically, maybe she used to be core, maybe she used to be, a total athlete, but now, she's got a family and job and other responsibilities. But man, when she gets to the mountain, she is a warrior. She's there just killing it every time she goes, and she brings the whole family with her. And she's the reason athleisure apparel is so hot right now, because everyone wants to look like like her, like they just finished working out. And when I look at that profile and I see so many people I know, you just get a better feel for exactly who that customer is. And those profiles include what percentage of the market that particular profile takes up, and generally speaking, what motivates them to buy snow sports stuff. Is it so? Do you sell somebody that only skis like 3 or 4 times a year the same way you would sell somebody that skis 30 plus days a year? Definitely different. So she appreciates some technical explanation of what gear she's buying includes, things like that don't make any sense to anybody outside of snow sports, like what's the side cut of your ski? Nobody cares, right? Or how wide is it at the waist? But she does respond to that, and she also responds to anything that has to do with quality, durability, and versatility. So she needs things, especially in apparel, that she can wear skiing, and then wear running, and then wear biking, and then wear hanging out with the family. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about
and then wear
building
again next year.
Exactly. Well, that's nice, right? Uh, yeah, you've got to build it. We built these profiles. We digested all of that data down to these profiles that really just paint a picture of who the snow sports customer is and what they're buying.
And then the real world ramifications of that then break down to everything from what product design to marketing tactics to
product design, targeting your marketing campaigns, targeting your advertising campaigns, and actually, when you think about it, is just knowing how to engage your customer, because you don't really market to people anymore. You engage them. You want to engage them in your brand, and if you don't know who they are, chances are they're never going to figure out who you are either.
Kelly, you mentioned a larger participation of women in this in snow sports. So, would you say that women as a gender is likely to be a snow sports travel oriented disruptor? Is that the next disruptor in travel for snow sports?
Actually, I think it's the whole family is going to be the millennial families are going to disrupt snow sports. Is that they're bringing things to snow sports that snow sports never thought it would have to deal with, including, we had a long conversation about whether or not you can use a drone, especially when we started talking about the possibility of having little lily drones that you just toss up, and they're about, they're the size of a little bug. Just picture this in your head. Picture at capacity day at a resort, everybody skiing and snowboarding with a drone over their heads. Now imagine the collisions. Actually, chaos would ensue. And we've even looked at things like smart goggles for augmented reality, and we paid particular attention when Pokemon Go came out, because we thought that it was going to take smart eyewear before augmented reality really hit the market hard. And granted, Pokemon Go was kind of a flash and a fade out, but a week after they went live, they had more users than Twitter. So, things like, imagine that you've got smart goggles, then you've got basically a virtual guide in front of you that's skiing down the mountain or snowboarding down the mountain with you. Or maybe it takes the form of a Yeti and you're chasing it. Or maybe you're in the park and you play some kind of an augmented reality game where, the higher you get out of the pipe, the more little coins you can grab. They're bringing all kinds of new ideas to snow sports that could really disrupt the marketplace.
That's really, really fun. It makes me think, my daughter, she's 5, and right now I don't even know the name of the game, and she plays the things better than I do. But there's lots of these versions, like the skateboarders or whatever, where you run and you have to tilt the iPad or whatever to jump over things and catch things. Right. So you're basically saying, like, you could simulate that going down a mountain.
And in your goggles. They already have goggles that'll show you what how many vertical you've done in a day, how many, where you've been, where your friends are. So we're not very far away. So that's, that could really disrupt the marketplace.
And record it simultaneously. And
so
really,
really
cool.
That's when we started getting.
What about the purists, though? Are there going to be? Would you expect to have pushback?
Oh,
sure, of course. When Pokemon Go came out, the outdoor had a whole bunch of pushback, and that was really interesting to me, because there are kids, that didn't know why, after spending 5 hours chasing, the Pokemon outside, that their skin was red and their legs were sore. They got outside for the first time in ages. And that was an awesome thing. You could see kids all over the parks, with their phones out. But who cares? Who cares if they have a phone or not? There were purists that said that was completely inappropriate, and we need to teach them to respect nature and be outdoors without their technology. And my guess is the same thing will happen in ski, and there are probably some liability issues that we have to iron out over things like that. But these things are coming at us, and we can embrace them, and grow our participant base and grow sales in the market.
Yeah, it's a really fun market, which I had never considered, coming from Nearsoft is a software development company. Like, because you think winter sports, I think parkas, snowboards,
Right.
and sunscreen and whatever, but adding like that software development into a goggle, or types of applications. What types of like apps are there that exist right now, or you're hoping to see in the market for snow sports?
Well, we've got a lot of apps actually. I mean, everything from Snow Crew to Epic Mix to a host of others that are run by resorts. And it's what they do is they allow you to do a number of different things, including things like figuring out where you've been, where you are, how many vertical feet you've gone up and down for the day. And you can actually compare that to anybody else that's on the app. So you end up in these sort of ridiculous contests, and including like top speed. And I've seen people just rip down the mountain trying to up their top speed so that they can have bragging rights with their friends. So those things are already happening, and a lot of it is pretty low key, but you never know where things are going and how fast they're gonna be there. And yeah, augmented reality is one of those things that we're keeping our eye on, definitely.
So your analytics have shown you augmented reality is on the upswing. What else?
Well, a lot of when we talk about snow sports, you probably think, in addition to having a parka, being cold, you're thinking about being at a resort. One of the things we found was that there are a lot of pretty much kids, but adults too, that are building things like flow parks in their backyard. So that every day they can come home and just hang out and snowboard or ski right there. They don't actually have to go to the resort. And the other interesting thing about that we found was that the more they did that, the more often they went to a resort. So if you've got a flow park in your backyard and your friends come over every afternoon, chances are you're gonna figure out a way to get to the resort about once or twice a week, which is pretty amazing, right? It's fun to see all of that. The other thing we're seeing is the number of people that are sledding but never cross over to skiing and snowboarding. And just to be clear, right? We're not selling skis or boards or park. We're selling a drug, basically. And it's the same feeling that you had, Kim, the first time you got on a sled and slid down the hill, and it was awesome, right? That's just a feeling of speed and freedom and just being outdoors in winter with your friends is awesome. So we're finding ways to basically go to sledding hills and engage those people that maybe wouldn't have been engaged otherwise. So we're finding all kinds of ways to engage new participants and grow the market, but also re-engage participants that lapsed and convince this is a new thing, right? Trying to convince the people that only go 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, that it's time to buy equipment because it's way easier. And then we end up getting somebody that does it more often. And we've got an Olympic year, a Winter Olympic year coming up next year, right? From South Korea. And when the Olympics are on, it doesn't necessarily bring a lot of new people into the market. It raises interest, but what it really does is it motivates people that are already participating to participate more. So we're gonna take a really hard look at what we can do to really convince casual participants, and that's basically 80% of the market, by the way. To do it a little bit more and to bring the lapsed people
back. Kelly, I'm gonna go ahead and take a chance. I'm gonna risk my life right now. Okay, because I know that there are some things that you probably can tell us, but then you would have to kill us. So again, I'll take my chances. So in this sense, what I'd like to ask you is, in the winter sports space, what types of companies or what types of institutions or even professionals, whatever, who's going to gain larger market share, and why and how?
Well, I think everybody could get larger market share, and that's everybody from resorts to apparel wholesalers to snow sports retailers. And we're talking about hard goods, soft goods. The idea is that if you can bring more people into the market, and sometimes they don't buy, and that's good for resorts. So they increase their market share just basically by engaging a larger percentage of the population and selling more lift tickets. And with hard goods and soft goods, when somebody comes in, for instance, to buy, let's say they go into a specialty shop and they're going to buy boots, chances are they're also buying skis and a jacket and all kinds of goggles, all of the things that they need all at the same time. Really interesting to see how that behavior works. So, if we can get more people in just to think about maybe buying skis or snowboard, or even maybe, just going in to check out new technology and goggles, we end up with all kinds of suppliers. That's the wholesalers who have increased their market share simply by selling to a larger portion of our participant base.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I
And
won't have to kill you after that, by the way.
yeah, I think I made it. I made it through the whole interview. So I mean, as long as I stay alive, that's fine. Okay. Yeah. And also, there's something else, and then I'll pass on the mic to you, Kim. What I was thinking is, you were mentioning we were talking about all this technology and the apps and augmented reality, virtual reality. So all these technology elements, which are really, really cool, and actually a lot of the people here at the company also kind of favor it because of, for obvious reasons, because we are a technology company. However, and since I'm kind of an old timer here in this sense, and I kind of more like lean towards the natural experience of the thrill of the ride, of the serotonin and the and everything that's related to the actual experience itself. So, do you think? And this is just I'm just thinking. I'm not questioning anything. But do you think that there could be like a fine line that could probably be crossed, in the sense that you're going to get lost in all this technology and you're going to miss on the real natural, so to speak, the natural thrill of this? You mentioned a drug, and I assume that it's serotonin or oxytocin or what have you. So where's this, do you see a fine line here that could be crossed or shouldn't be crossed? Or how do we deal with this, and how are the next generations are going to deal with this?
Well, interestingly, that's sort of related to are there going to be purists that push back on this? And I don't think that you can get lost in the tech when it comes to skiing, because really, once you're basically sliding fast down the mountain, everything just disappears. And the goal is to get enough stuff so that you're just enjoying that experience. And whether it's skis or a snowboard or goggles or having the right parka or whatever, all of it is just to really just enhance your ability to get that oxytocin rush, to get that adrenaline rush, to feel that feeling. And even when it comes to augmented reality, the whole experience is right there. And frankly, other people might experience it in a different way, but it's something that keeps bringing people back over and over and over again. And I think it may just be an addiction. So if you're just feeding the dragon there, and making sure that you have that experience and you have that sort of physical feeling, I think that anything you can do to make that easier to access or to augment that is just good. It's like whipped cream.
Yeah, like peanut butter makes everything better. Avocado, bacon, I was
snow sports, the bacon of life. I like it.
All right. Wait for my commission on the marketing. No, I was wondering too, like, as far as another place, I suppose, for technology, and I'm assuming some of these devices already exist, but making the experience safer as well, like, especially when it comes to, like, I don't know, backcountry skiing and things, like the ability to detect distances, snow depth. I mean, is that a market that exists, and where do you see that going?
Backcountry, I think, is growing. The data definitely indicates that backcountry is growing, and there are even some entire towns that are embracing the idea, like Aspen. is embracing the idea of doing backcountry. Remember when we were talking about skins? Yeah, well, that's a way that you get into the backcountry. And as far as, technology and gear, if you're in the backcountry, it, to a certain extent, it's still a really analog experience, where if you're testing the snow and you're digging a pit and you're looking at the layers and making some really important assumptions about whether or not you're in danger of a slide. I'm not sure that's ever going to change. No technology is ever going to take the place of actually, getting your hands in and getting your eyes on the snowpack and taking a look at it. But there are certain technologies that will help you in the event of let's say the worst case scenario, you're in an avalanche. We have it for about the past, I guess it's been more than 10 years, but becoming more and more popular, things like avalanche airbags. So if you get caught in a slide, basically you pull a cord and these two giant balloons pop out of your back and help keep you on top of the slide. That's a good example of ways that, we're building technology to help keep people safer. Helmets, there are several companies that have multiple hit helmets now, so that really every time you crash and hit your head with your helmet, you're really supposed to replace your helmet. Not a lot of people know that, but it's the same is true with bike and snow sports and even rock climbing. So they're advancing helmet technology quite a bit, so that basically you can fall down a lot and not have to buy a new helmet every time. The helmet's more effective at protecting your head from any kind of damage it might sustain from, say, hitting a tree. It's getting a little bit easier. And in addition, the equipment, the skis that we used to ski on 25 years ago were straight, and they were hard to turn, and it was really difficult to do things like alpine touring and backcountry skiing. Now, because of the way skis are shaped, which was sort of an offshoot of snowboard when snowboard came out, they're so much easier to ski on. I mean, I don't know if you two, Kim, you said you hadn't skied. Carlos, you're about
twice,
to.
Twice
I'm
in my
about to.
life. Twice in my life, but last time I was probably about 20 years ago. So
I mean, it's so much easier. It's the today's intermediate skier is skiing terrain and doing it better than experts could do it 25 years ago on their straight skis. So the technology in the gear is improving to the point where it's very, very easy to do some pretty amazing things on snow. Yeah, you should try it.
now, next time I go back home in the winter, I will. I guess my only last question, before I can hand the mic back over to Carlos, is I'm interested in. You were talking about a lot of data and some pretty big numbers as far as participants. I think I heard 140,000 or something like that. I'm wondering about your research methods. Here, one of the things we do a lot at Nearsoft, we're really into now, like the UI and the UX and methods that go beyond just the standard survey or things like that. So what type of methods do you use? I mean, I'm sure to reach the masses, it has to be more of like a written survey type, but are there other methods that you work with, and how do they work out for you? Or do you have a preference or favorite?
I like clean methods, simple methods, probably the most, but we don't have a lot of them. For participant base calculations, we actually work. This is the cool part. We work with golf, tennis, sports and fitness, which is pretty much every team sport you can imagine. USA football, which is sort of special in their way. Health and racket clubs, and surf, skate, and bike, to do a major participation study in which we're doing about 30,000 interviews across the country. And it's online, basically. But the nice thing about that is that it not only gives us our numbers, so we know that 11.6 million people are downhill skiing and 7.6 million are snowboarding, and we've got about 4 million that are cross country skiing. and another 4 million who are snowshoeing. We know how often those people play basketball. We know how often they're golfing. So, during the off season, like you said, it's, 6 to 8 months. We know where to find them. We know what they're doing. And so do all of those other sports. So, the outdoor industry knows that somebody that spends a lot of time hiking in the summertime is very likely to participate in snow sports in the wintertime, or to at least be outside in the wintertime. And so we've got a better idea of how to market to them and how to cross market to them, and what we can do to really increase the whole active participant base. So that's one method of figuring out what's going on with participants. We also do a lot of qualitative, where we basically go resort to resort and ask people, what kind of experience they're having and what they love about snow sports, and when they last bought skis, or when they last bought their boots. And trust me, sometimes it's pretty obvious that they hadn't bought boots for about 20 years. But we use triangulation. So if we've got a quantitative method, we try and have a qualitative method to really figure out if the results that we're getting quantitatively are authentic when it comes to asking and observing what people are doing. We also measure the retail market, and that includes a sample of, basically a third of the retailers send their POS data into a vendor, and they aggregate it and then and basically project it to the entire market. So we have a really interesting view of what's going on in retail. And we do wholesale studies in which the suppliers basically just send their data in to an independent resource, and they strip it of identifiers, and we aggregate that and give it back to the suppliers, who can then check their results against what happened across the category. And that may be the most simple method we have, because we don't project, we simply normalize and verify, and that's it. So we've got a really good idea of what's going on the wholesale side as well. So those are some of the methods we use. There are certainly others, benchmarking and all the different things that we do to figure out who our consumers are include a variety of different quantitative and qualitative methods, including regression and the usual suspects when it comes to doing data analysis.
Because I really liked what you said about the idea of we're not marketing anymore, we're engaging.
Right.
So how do you go about that engagement? How do you discover the best ways to engage with your target?
One of the ways to do that is to figure out what the best practices are. I mean, when you think about brands, and I think we can all do this, think about brands that you are engaged with, and consider how that happened and why you might be engaged with them. Or when you go online, where do you go to get your information? And as a brand, you need to know where your customers are going to get that information and be there with them. So engagement, and it also has a component that's really sort of personal, where you're trying to find customers who are really going to identify themselves with your brand. I mean, you want net promoters, and to get those people, you really have to understand who they are and what motivates them, and really, it's a two-way conversation. It's not just one way anymore. You've got to make sure that you're open to hearing what they have to say and listening to them, and understanding exactly what your customers want from you and give it to them. That's engagement. Yeah.
And give it to them.
And give it to them.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we're approaching the final minutes of our broadcast, and there's only one thing that I'd like to ask you, and it's pretty straightforward. Kelly, can you tell us a little bit about what the snow sports industries, America, and then what it does for the industry and how it helps the industry grow and thrive?
Yeah, Snow Sports Industry America has been around for more than 50 years. We've been putting on a national trade show for about 54 years, as a matter of fact, and that brings the entire industry together. In addition to the trade show, we do all kinds of education events where retailers and reps and suppliers can come and get a view of the data. Sometimes a hardcore view, depends on the venue and who's there. Sometimes a softer view, but in addition to the trade show and education, we have a full library of research that's available to our members. And we have about 800 members, 800 brands are members, and most are suppliers. Basically, our membership is pretty much geared toward snow sports suppliers. So we have all kinds of wholesale information about the participant base, information about every aspect of the snow sports business to help our members compete better in the marketplace.
Cool. Thank you, Kelly. And well, finally, how do we let our viewers know where to get a hold of you or get in touch with you? Should they have any questions whatsoever about what you do?
Well, geez,
But more about.
this is when I need a Post-it note.
Oh, don't worry, I can do it for you. I got one.
It's you can reach me at kdavis, KDAVIS, at snowsports.org.
Cool. There
Anytime.
You have it, folks.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. Okay, so you got that, Kim? Cool. I'll tell you what. Let's do this because I know that writing things down on a post-it note. Sometimes it's a little awkward. Sometimes. So what we'll do is we're gonna ask our viewers, because this episode is being recorded, and it's all gonna be on the website. All the info is gonna be in there, and so you're gonna have all the contact info for Kelly right there on her own personalized landing page that you're gonna see on DojoLIVE's website. And Kelly, we're about to wrap up, so I don't know if you have any final words of wisdom for our audience or for Mountain Travel Symposium's attendees or whoever's watching the show.
Yeah, go skiing, go snowboarding, enjoy yourself, go get that feeling, go get that rush, go love it.
I was gonna say, what are your first timer tips for Carlos?
Yeah, please.
Well, get a lesson.
Get a lesson.
Avoid the trees.
Well, Carlos, you need to go that way really fast. And if something
down,
gets in
right?
your way.
Yeah, it's going to be down. Okay. Preferably on my feet, right?
Preferably.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll give it a try. Yeah. Well, absolutely. So, that's all on my end. So, Kim, do you want to do the honors and do the wrap up?
Yes. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a lot. I had some laughs. Snow sports. It's very cool. You're a bright woman. Way to use the numbers. Thank you for teaching us and showing us a bit about how to use the numbers and to compile them and take a look at them. And of course, the trends in this aspect of travel hospitality. So thank you very much. And we'll see you all actually. And we got another episode coming up in 2 hours, right? Right, Carlos?
Yeah, we got another one with Stuart Hart, actually. So that should be a great one as well. So that's going to be in 2 hours. It's going to be a busy week for
But thank you so much for your time, Kelly. You're a blast, and I'm so glad that you get to do a job that you love.
Yeah, thanks. You too, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kelly, and I'll see you soon. We'll be in touch. Yeah. You're not going. You already mentioned that. Yeah. But we're going to be in touch, and I'll send you the link to your interview in a few minutes right after the episode. Okay.
All right, Carlos. Have fun out there. All right. See you guys.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Hey, bye.
Bye.